And welcome back to the channel of nonsense. Today we have got the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and I know what you're thinking, that's just a hatchback that's really far away, but it's not. It's actually quite close. This is a weird car because it looks like a concept car. You could think that's like a Skoda Fabia size thing, and it kind of is, but it's been put in a photocopier on 150%. It's actually quite a big car. It's a rival for the likes of the Volkswagen ID4 and the Audi Q4 e-tron thing. This is a £48,000 dual motor version, but it starts at £38,000 for a single motor. I'm going to give you a quick walk around, take it out for a drive and find out if it's as futuristic as it looks. It looks absolutely ridiculous, doesn't it? It looks like it's just driven straight off a stand at a motor show for a concept car for 5 years' time. Look at these headlights. They're made up of 256 individual cubes. It's got this kind of whole retro modern thing going on. It's on 20-inch wheels, which are ridiculous. Look at those. They're all kind of like black in the middle, chrome around the outside. And it's in this gorgeous kind of satin grey paint. There's some cool colours. There's some like slightly greeny ones as well. Now this is 4.64 meters long, just to give you some sense of scale. So it is quite big. It's bigger than a Hyundai Tucson for a start. It weighs 2 tons. This one's got a 73 kilowatt hour battery in it. There is a smaller battery available, and you can get this bigger battery with single or dual motors. This is the dual motor ones I've said. So it's got 301 horsepower, 605 Newton meters of torquey goodness, and it'll do 0 to 62 in 5.2 seconds. So it's pretty quick. And it will apparently do 267 miles on a charge. So yeah, it's quite a cool thing. Let's have a quick squiz at the boot because it is big. So it looks like a hatchback, but it's got the boot of an SUV. That's 527 litres in there. It's like reasonably shallow. It's not particularly deep space, but it is big. It's kind of, the square footage is pretty decent. And the boot is quite high off the ground as well, which is worth bearing in mind if you're going to put dogs in there. I'm also loving this kind of like square thing. It's like Rubik's cubes kind of lined up next to each other. And you've got these like digital looking brake lights. It is just, there's nothing else like it, is there? Now this is the first car built on Hyundai's dedicated EV platform, which means it's designed to be electric, so you get loads of interior space. Look at all that legroom in the back. It's ridiculous. I don't know how they've done it. Well, they put everything onto the floor, I guess, but let's get in and see if it's any good. The important test for any EV is, can I fit my feet under the chairs? And you know what? I can. I've got these little B-pillar vents here. The door cards have all got this kind of like marble effect on it in these ones, which is really quite cool. The leather is super soft. Obviously this is Hyundai moving up market, so 48 grand is punchy for a Hyundai. But as I said, you can get one for 37. But it feels for all the world like a kind of Scandinavian thing rather than a Korean car. Up front, sorry, the steering wheel's on the piss. You've got 2 displays, digital ones, obviously, and everything is white. It looks like, I know, the inside of an Apple store. You've got the usual Hyundai buttons and bits and bobs, which are recognisable, but the rest of it feels like no other Hyundai that I've ever been in. So anyway, going to take it out for a quick drive, first impressions styly, and we'll find out if it's any good. Right, let's find out what the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is like to drive. You put it in gear using this little twisty doodah down there that's more logically placed than the one in a Volkswagen ID4. Steering wheel is sort of flat bottomed-ish. It's kind of like squircular almost. And it's super light steering as well. Now, I can't overstate this enough, how awesome it feels in here. It's just super cool. The vibe is really chic and Scandi-ish. The leather actually smells really posh. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I'm kind of getting Bentley vibes from the smell of this car. Not sure I'll get them from how it drives, but we will find out. I've got 93% battery, and that's 206 miles before we start. So that 260 mile range is not going to be forthcoming from this one, but this is a press car that has been ragged, I imagine. Oh, it's quite quick. Yes, it's not slow. Let me just readjust my seat so I don't slide away from the steering wheel. Yeah, 5.2 seconds to 60 is brisk, isn't it? And especially in a 2-ton family hatch SUV thing. Don't really know what to call this because it doesn't look like an SUV. It looks like a little family hatchback, but it's high up like an SUV. Let's just call it an SUV. Anyway, digital dashboard is super clear. It's telling me my speed, my range, and it's all on this kind of white background, which is super soothing. After kind of decades of everything being white on black, it's nice to have it the other way around. It's like you're I don't know, reading a Kindle of speed. I've got a big clear head-up display of my sat-nav directions in it and the speed limits and the speed I'm doing, which is nice. That always just takes some of the edge out of driving, especially when you're driving a big left-hand drive car on UK roads, but hey-ho, these will obviously be in right-hand drive for UK market soon. First thing that really strikes me about this is the ride. It's on big 20-inch wheels, and over kind of gentle bumps, it's fine and comfortable, but I am getting some little sharp edges coming through over smaller cracks in the road, so I wonder if it will come undone a bit on more pittery-pattery roads, but we'll get onto that in a bit. Now, obviously, this is not a sports car. It is just an airy family SUV, but I'm about to go from 50 to 60 miles an hour, and let's see how long it takes to get there. We're there. And obviously you get a little bit of electric whine, like from the motors, but it's reasonably good. That beeping you hear, is it telling me that I'm going near the centre line, because I'm not used to driving left-hand drive cars in the UK, so I'm erring away from the verge ever so slightly. One thing that does slightly irk me already is the text on the silver buttons down here for like map, sat nav. They are physical buttons, which is good. Obviously we praise that whenever it happens, but they have backlit purple writing on these silver buttons, and that makes it really hard to read them in daylight because the purple is quite close to being silvery. The brakes feel perfectly good. They don't have that artificial step between using regenerative braking and the physical brakes. They just feel like normal brakes, and I think that's really where EV manufacturers need to get to, isn't it? Where the cars feel normal to drive, and this one does. So well done, Hyundai. The eagle-eyed among you might notice that this one has got a tyre pressure monitoring alert, and Hyundai tells me they've checked all the tyres, they're fine, it just needs recalibrating with a laptop or something. It's worth pointing out that this isn't a UK spec car. The UK cars will be slightly different in some minor ways, I presume, that will have Union Jack headlining and things like that. And yes, you're allowed to call it a Union Jack, not a Union flag, even if it's not on a ship, so bore off pedants, you're wrong. I'm doing 30 miles an hour through a village, and it's very peaceful in here. I feel like I'm talking a bit too loud. It's very hushed. You feel a slight thud of the road like I talked about before, but that's about it. This would be a great town car for commuting. And then you can accelerate away from the traffic lights and beat everyone. Visibility out is actually pretty good. You've got big old pillars at the back, but somehow they don't really seem that bad. Maybe it's because I'm in a left-hand drive one. The Ioniq 5 has that cool thing that's also in other Kias and Hyundais and Genesises, where when you indicate left or right, it shows you your rear view in the driver display down here, so you can see down the back of the car the way you're about to turn. The idea being, I guess, that when you're in town, you've got your indicator on, you can check there, as well as checking over your shoulder like a good person, to make sure you're not about to mangle other road users, which is apparently frowned upon in 2021. One thing I neglected to mention when I was doing my quick interior walk around is just how much storage space there is in here, which is a very boring thing to talk about, but it's important when you've got a Haribo addiction or children. So you've got two cup holders up here, and you've got this big flat space down here, so there's no center console. And you've got another cubby down here with a 12-volt socket and a USB on it, and you've got more space down here with a wireless charging map. There's loads of stuff. There's a door pocket on each side. Yeah, this has been very well thought out as a family car. But yeah, you will be losing stuff and forgetting which of the million cubby holes you put it in. But I can't whinge about too much storage space, can I? That's awesome. This is, again, an example of what you get when you build a car on a dedicated EV platform. There's no transmission tunnel that's left over from a petrol version that no one's going to buy. It's just flat. And it's cool, actually, because the floor mats, another very boring thing to talk about. The floor mat on the driver's side and the passenger side, they meet in the middle. They sort of rub up against each other and frot in the middle of the floor down here. It's really cool. You could almost imagine you can have a middle seat. And it just beeped at me to tell me to start driving because the cars in front have moved off. I like technology and it makes me look less like an idiot on the road. I wonder if it could do the same for me on YouTube. And obviously this isn't a full warts and all in-depth, all singing, all dancing review like I normally do. Because I've only got the car for about an hour. So yeah, but I do want to do some quick comparisons. So this goes up really against things like the Volkswagen ID4. Top spec ones of that are about 48 grand. And I would have this based on several things. The cabin is way more interesting, it's way more spacious and a bit better thought out. The infotainment system is not a Volkswagen system, so it is amazing. It's actually really good, even in comparison to the Volkswagen system, which is turd. This is very good. It's very sharp, very easy to use. Everything is lovely laid out, easy to read. Like that Polestar 2 that I filmed last year, it's got a sort of laid back, easy to use vibe that will appeal to people who aren't big car nerds, which I think is a good thing, because cars can often feel car-y for car's sake. This is starting to feel more like an iPod or an iPhone, something like that, just something that you want. It looks cool, it's a desirable thing. I don't want to call it a utility, but it's kind of going that way, and I think that's a cool, good thing. Unsurprisingly, lots and lots of people are stopping to look at this as I drive past. It is eye-catching, to say the least. They probably think the future has come, and the future is a computer game car. This Ioniq 5 is making me praise the seats. They're really comfortable. It's not something I normally talk about, but they're supportive enough to keep you in when you're going around corners. But they're also really deliciously soft and comfy. And you can tell that they've been thought about, and they're not just ripped out of another car that Hyundai makes. It's quite fast. I would like to see what this is like on slightly smaller wheels. Those 20s do look quite cool and they fit the size of the car and look normal. But I wonder if they're part of the reason it is a little bit jiggly over smaller bumps. It's not awful, but you notice it a bit. And it hasn't got that wallowy feel that you get from electric cars, so I guess that's been dialed out, and maybe that little sharp edge jagginess has been dialed in as a result. Right, I've clicked down into sport mode using the little button on the steering wheel. I'm going from 0 to 60. Let's see how fast this feels. Violent off the line, and that is 50. I stopped at 50 for some reason. I don't know why. I thought it was a 50 limit. It's not, but yeah. So it is really, really fast, dual motor fast. It's not as savage, perhaps, as even a Polestar 2. I think that does feel a little bit more sprightly. And obviously a top-spec Tesla Model 3 is going to do the Elon Musky thing. But no, it is really quick, this one. So don't go thinking, oh, it's a Hyundai, it'll feel a bit slow. Right, we're going to get some corners. This is a 2-ton car. Let's see how it feels. Now, the steering is light and it isn't really giving me any sense of how much grip I've got. But, ooh, that was a bit of a bump that unsettled it, but it's fine on a B road. You're not going to be driving this with your hair on fire, but you can go down a 60 limit, bumpy country road at 60 or faster if you want to. Don't really think I need to go into chassis dynamics on a big EV, do I? It's all right, it's fine. The main thing is that it's quite quiet at high speeds, which is the way it should be. There's no point having a noisy EV with loads of tyre noise, and this doesn't. Right, that was a very quick first impressions of the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Hopefully it was useful if you're looking at one of these, or if you're just bored and picking fluff out of your belly button pretending to work from home. Thank you for watching. In conclusion, I would say this is probably now my favourite EV in that kind of 50 grand price bracket, certainly in terms of space and vibe and feel, and you think this would make an excellent family car. Now, I think the range isn't quite as good as it's said to be, but again, this has been ragged by journalists, so it's hard for me to judge right here, right now. Sure, you might think 48 grand is a lot for a Hyundai, but don't forget that everything is getting more expensive and good EVs are not cheap. I would have this over a Volkswagen ID4, and possibly even, I know it's a different kind of car, a Polestar 2, just because it's more spacious. I like the vibe, I like the leather, I like the whiteness, I like the infotainment, I like the comfort, mostly, slightly jiggly, but I like the whole thing as a package, and it looks out of this world, which I think counts for a lot. So fair play to Hyundai for being brave, for bringing what is essentially a concept car to market, and for it doing everything it needs to do really well. Can't ask for more than that, really, can we? Possibly lasers or dinosaurs, I don't know. But anyway, enough nonsense from me. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. If you liked the video, hit that little like thumbs up. That really does help me out, as does subscribing for more nonsense like this. And leave a really nice comment in the comments as well, because that just makes my day when I get the little email telling me I've got a comment. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Try not to crash. That's me, not you. Whee! Oh, hello, roadworks. Don't kill the men.